this episode of Halva for the Heart, Dying and Grieving in Diaspora. My name is Misha. I am an Iranian American death doula and grief tender. In today's episode, we will be learning more about and deepening into the ancient Iranian holiday of Farvardingan. Farvardingan is one of the name day holidays of the Zoroastrian calendar. It's when the month of Farvardin coincides with the day of Farvardin, which is the 19th day of every month. So the 19th of Farvardin, or April 8th, in the Gregorian calendar is known as Farvardingan. Farvardingan is a holiday that is dedicated to grief, to the ancestors, to the spirits. It's named for the Fravashis. The Fravashi is the Zoroastrian idea of a spirit or a soul, one that is in existence before birth and continues to exist after birth. And it's not just in the souls for humans, but also for animals, for plants, for mountains, for rivers, and also for the deities. Each being has a Fravashi. And so Farvardingan is the day when the Fravashis of those who have died return back to the living world and visit us. It can be described as a sort of Dia de los Muertos holiday, where the families and loved ones gather at the graves of those who have died and remember, celebrate, honor, love, and feed the souls of their loved ones who have died. To me, this is a beautiful tradition and one that we see across many indigenous cultures around the world. This annual or like regular remembering and sitting with grief and doing so communally and with joy and love and laughter and dance and food. And I find that to be such a healthy way of being with grief. And so natural, especially since we see it in cultures around the world. Farvardingan, I think, is unique in that it actually, there's kind of two versions of it. There's Farvardingan. Farvardingan is the last 10 days before Nowruz, the last 10 days of the year. And it's similar in that people are inviting the Fravashis into their home to return back to the home and to be with the family for Nowruz. And then there's Farvardingan, which is on April 8th, just after the Nowruz season has ended. We just said Siz Bedar. Siz Bedar being on the 13th day of Farvardin and Farvardingan being on the 19th day. And so these holidays are often forgotten about in modern experiences. I've always been taught that the Nowruz season opens with Charshanbe Suri and closes with Siz Bedar, but learning now that the season actually opens with Farvardingan calling in the ancestors and closes with Farvardingan, a day spent with the ancestors at their graves. It kind of it helps me reimagine this Nowruz season as being grounded and rooted in ancestry, in history, in story, in memory, and in love. So Farvardingan is April 8th, and it's a holiday that I've never celebrated before. It's interesting to me that I was at the cemetery not too long ago on March 28th for my mom's birthday. And my friend and I had a lovely little picnic there, spent time with her, sharing stories. And then we stopped by again on the Sunday after Sista Bedad. And my mom is buried in a cemetery that has a Muslim section, but it has primarily been Iranians. There's mostly Iranians there. And so when we went the Sunday after Sista Bedad, just to drop off some flowers, it was crowded. I haven't seen the cemetery that crowded in a long time. There were so many Iranian families there, going out from grave to grave, offering flowers, eating dates and halva, and just talking together and spending time together at the cemetery. And I think it's fairly common for Iranian families to spend Sista Bedar picnicking at the cemetery, right, at the graves. And it makes sense that that would be kind of the modern interpretation of this holiday. But to know that it extends beyond Sista Bedar, that like April 8th, Farvardingan, is also another time to go to the graves and spend time with the ancestors. And so there's something in our customs, our traditions, and our bodies that knows that springtime, the season of birth and renewal, is a time to spend with ancestors. It's a time to invite them into our lives, and a time when they will be coming to visit, and that we have a responsibility to care for them, knowing that they will care for us. This year, of course, is especially heavy. This whole Nowruz season has been heavy with the war and bombings in Iran. It's hard for me to even say it. The Iranian people are in so much danger and fear, and yet they still celebrate their holidays, even under bombardment. But so when I was thinking about how I can honor Farvardingan this year, how can I honor the souls of the departed, I'm thinking about the thousands who were massacred in January by the Islamic Republic. I'm thinking about the thousands who have been killed in airstrikes by the US and Israel. I'm thinking about the people in Iran who will die from lack of access to medicine, perhaps lack of access to electricity, the people who are continuing to be executed in the prisons throughout Iran. All of their souls are on the other side now. And yet, during this season of Nowruz, and especially on Farvardingan, the veil is thin, as they say, right? The veil is thin whether we are aware of it or not. My mom came to me in a dream last night, and I don't dream about my mom often, but when I do, it's usually like I see her in my dream, and I like have this knowing that, oh, she's dead. Oh, she's not supposed to be here. And she's usually physically looks like as she did months before she died, right? So without her hair, in a wheelchair, things like that. But last night I had a dream where I was in a really grumpy mood for some reason. And I remember like stepping outside the building to get some fresh air because I was so angry about something. And I look up, and she kind of like turned a corner and saw me. And somehow I knew that like she was there to like pick me up. It was like as if I were somewhere. She was meeting me somewhere to pick me up to go somewhere. And I saw her, and I was surprised, but it was more like, oh, I forgot you were coming to pick me up. And I just saw her, and like instantly all my anger was gone. I was overcome with joy. I remember feeling the biggest smile on my face. And I just like ran as fast as I could to her and gave her a big hug. And the moment that like my arms wrapped around her and her arms wrapped around me, that's when I woke up. And she looked healthy. She looked happy to see me. And I felt so loved. And so I think that's just like one example of how the ancestors are coming to visit us right now. Someone asked me recently, like, how do you get yourself to believe in this stuff? I can't get past my logic brain that tells me none of this is real. And my advice is you don't have to believe. You don't have to believe. You just need to choose to suspend disbelief for a moment, to actively decide to pretend that it could be real, right? To allow yourself to sit in the what if it were true? What if? What if my ancestors could visit me in my dreams? What if they could send me messages? What if they could talk to me? If they could, what would they say? What would their presence feel like if they were here right now? What if? And then once you're in that space of pretend, imagining, and then just allow for whatever to come to you come. And even if, like, I do all this knowing that even if it's all just a placebo effect, that a placebo is just as effective as the real thing, that even if none of it's real, I still feel better connecting with my ancestors. And so why not do it? Right? And I think Farvardingan is a beautiful invitation to do that, to allow our logic brains to just take a step back for a moment and allow the imagination part of our brain to wonder, what if? And when I'm talking about ancestors, yes, I'm talking about our blood lineage, right? The people in our bloodline, our blood ancestors, but it's more than just that. For some people, blood ancestors may not feel accessible, may not feel safe to access. Perhaps there's trauma. And that doesn't mean that you don't have ancestors you can tap into. It just means that you have other ancestors. My grief mentor, Holly Truhlar, talks about soul lineage, and that there's different types of lineages that you can call into, one being blood lineage, but others being the lineage of those who cared for and nurtured the people in your family. Land lineage, the people who have lived on the land where you are, the people who have lived on the land that are your ancestral homelands. Feeling lineage, story lineage. Story lineage being the stories that are passed down and who has heard those stories. I think of like the Shahnameh, right? We as a people have been raised on the stories of the Shahnameh. And so even if you're not blood related to someone else who has that story in their lineage, you are still of the same lineage. And the same can be applied to songs, as songs are passed down. And feeling lineage, people who have kind of suffered and survived and felt the same things that you've felt. And there's many more, but tapping into those sorts of lineages, reframing your idea of what an ancestor is, and allowing the greater pool of ancestry to hold you and come forward. People speak of queer ancestors, of transcestors, people who have fought against the same things we're fighting against, resisted against the same things, loved in the same way, hoped for the same things, longed for the same things. They can be supports as well. And I think tapping into the support of these ancestors, no matter which lineage they come from, is especially important right now. Especially important right now in a time of war. I have been sitting with, and I think a lot of people in the Iranian diaspora have been sitting with this feeling of abandonment, of loneliness, of people in our lives, non-Iranians mostly, who haven't said anything, who haven't reached out, who haven't checked in, or worse, have abandoned us in our time of need. And that's painful. And then beyond just the people we know, but the larger American Western media, waking up and reading whatever Trump has posted that day is dehumanizing in a way that I can't really explain. It's invalidating, infuriating. You know, this news story of the American jet pilot who had to be rescued, blah, 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 made me so angry because we're supposed to care about his life more than we're supposed to care about the lives of Iranians. When this man, this jet pilot, signed up for the job, he chose to do this. The people in Iran did not choose this. And so we're like constantly reminded by people in our lives and by the media that our lives aren't important. Our lives aren't really worth caring about. We are made to feel disposable. And there's a deep, deep grief to that, right? And a deep loneliness. Not to mention when we get that same sort of rhetoric from other Iranians, when there are other Iranians who are cheering on this war, who are thanking Trump, who say that the lives being lost in Iran are collateral damage or they deserved it for living near that whatever power plant or whatever it is. That's a betrayal in a different way. It's just as isolating, but the feelings beneath it, at least what I'm noticing in my body, feel very different. And so with these feelings of isolation, what can we do? We can try to find Iranian community that we feel safe with. And that's very important. And also, I think tapping into our ancestors can also be just as supportive. That reminder that we are not alone. We are never alone. Our ancestors are always here, and especially on Farvardingan, the ancestors are here. And the ancestors are here for us, to care for us, to protect us, to guide us, to love us, and to help us feel grounded when the world feels unbearable. So I invite you to celebrate Farvardingan in whatever way feels supportive to you this year. Traditionally, it's a holiday of joy and celebration. But if that doesn't feel accessible this year, that's okay. Just find a time to connect with your ancestors, however feels right to you. I like to sit in front of my altar and speak to them in Farsi. There's something about speaking in their language that makes me feel so much closer to them, even though my Farsi isn't perfect. Their understanding, I find that, and this may be my way of pretending, but I find that after they've died, they're not as judgmental. I like to pretend, what if the Iranian elders that I grew up with weren't so judgmental after they died? And I allow them to be supportive in a non-judgmental way. So I like to sit up on my altar and talk to them. Sometimes I sing to them. There are a few songs, some Farsi songs that I sing to them many times over and over. Some of them I have included in our Dardadel playlist, which I can link below if you're interested. I've gotten a lot of messages from people saying that the playlist has been very supportive to them during this time of war. So I hope it supports you too. Sometimes I stand up and I turn on some music and I say, let's dance together. Bia beraqsim baham. And I dance in front of my altar. Sometimes, like today, I write a letter. I wrote a letter to my mom. I asked her, how can I protect my psyche from this sense of being disposable? How do I protect myself from not believing I'm disposable myself? How do I preserve my sense of dignity without succumbing to indignation? And while writing to her was helpful, what was even more helpful was writing a response from her to me, pretending, imagining, feeling into how she would answer those questions, what she would say to me. And you want to know what she said? She said, Azizam, Junam, Jigaraman, your dignity is inherent. Your dignity is inherent because your soul can never be broken. And I'm going to be carrying that with me. So I hope you find a way to honor Farvardingan, to connect with your ancestors. And remember, it's not a one-day thing. This is a practice that grow stronger the more we show up. That doesn't mean the ancestors will speak clearly to you every time you show up. But it does mean the more consistent we are in our showing up, the more that the ancestors will trust us, and the more that they will show up in return. So that's it for today's episode. Blessed Farvardingan to everyone. Bless the people in Iran. Bless us in Diaspora. May our ancestors protect us. May our ancestors protect the land of Iran. I'm doing my best to get the Farvardingan guidebook done in time. So hopefully, as you're listening to this podcast, the guidebook is available to download for a donation if you would like. The guidebook will go more into the cosmology and the traditional customs of the holiday and offers some journal prompts and ideas to celebrate with others. And as a reminder, members of Dowdadel get the guidebooks included in the membership. And for everyone else, it's available by donation. So I hope this episode was supportive. I hope you find this holiday supportive. Please reach out to me. Let me know how you're connecting with your ancestors. You can send me a message on Instagram. I'm at hafez.death.care. You can send me an email at misha@hafezdeathcare.com. You can even leave me a voice note. There's a link to that in the show notes as well. The more that we talk about and cultivate these traditions, the more that our ancestral wisdom can hold us in these trying times. So thank you. Thank you for leaning into it.